Like ghosts through the hourglass, these are the songs of our lives. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Songs of Our Lives. I'm Brad Rose. I am an artist, a composer, a writer, the founder of Foxy, Digitalis, and someone who thinks about music and sound far more than is healthy. Each week I invite on a guest and we talk about and go through and go all over the place, honestly, but the songs that have meant a lot to them and been with them along their journey. Previous guests include Cadence Weapon, Matthew Sage, Miriam Gendron, Leah Bertucci, Six Organs of Admittance, Rosalie Clarisay, and so many more. This week, I am excited to have Jeffrey Silverstein on the episode, and we had a lot of fun, and he's got a new EP out called Roseway, which is just, it's perfect for summer. Everything about it is just like perfect for this time of year. The music and the songs, of course, but then I just feel like the cover, the color scheme, color palette of the cover and the design, just, I don't know, it's like exactly the kind of vibe I want this summer. I've known Jeffrey for a little bit. I think we first sort of crossed paths a couple years ago when Perpetual Doom put out that great Ted Lucas tribute comp. It's so easy when you know what you're doing. And Jeffrey and Ryan Oxford they covered It's So Nice to Get Stoned and did a video for it, and which Foxy Digitalis premiered. And I just remember, like, I had been really having a moment with Ted Lucas when it was serendipitous when Jeffrey reached out and was like, hey, there's this compilation, did this, da 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 da. I had been really obsessed with the Ted Lucas album right around the same time. So it just felt this like very right time moment. So anyway, and we talk about Ted Lucas a little later in the show. So Ted Lucas fans, take note. Anyway, we recorded this a couple weeks ago, and as ever, these are always just so much fun. Check out Roseway. It's out now on Airhawk. And yeah, hope you all enjoyed this one. My guest today is a musician, a songwriter, a singer, a guitarist, a writer, and many other things. It's Jeffrey Silverstein. Woo! How's it going?
It's going well. Happy to be here. Yeah, happy to be chatting with you. Thank you for making some time for me.
Absolutely. So, you got a new EP, Roseway, out June 14th, if my memory is correct.
Yeah, you got it.
On Arrowhawk. I guess tell me a little bit about how this one started and came to be.
Sure. Let's see. I would say that this one builds off of a lot of the momentum and kind of trust building communication between kind of core members, Alex Chapman on bass, Dana Bowie on drums, as well as the fact that this is the fourth release I've now made with my close friend, producer, engineer Ryan Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
So LP from last year, Western Sky Music, I kind of considered like first more like full band kind of proper album for us. And I think, we made that one pretty quickly, and then I feel like we really figured out how to play together on tour and live and kind of actually following the recording of that. So I feel like going into this one, we had like, I think just way more of like personal connection and communication locked in. And yeah, it's beautiful because Roseway is the name of the neighborhood where Dana, Alex, and I all live.
Oh, great.
So we kind of, which also is just really nice in regards to logistically being able to get together and work out music. And this was the first time. So most of what you hear is done live, and it was the first time doing pedal steel remotely. That's my buddy Connor down in LA. So yeah,
Nice,
yeah,
man. That's cool. Yeah, I can only imagine how living in the same neighborhood facilitates. I mean, just those connections and being able to work on it.
yeah. It's been really special. Like we mostly rehearse at Dana's house, and um, where we live is northeast Portland, and it's just it's quiet and a little tucked, and it just kind of feels like, I mean, Portland's not that big of a city, but somehow getting back out, kind of going over this ridge that you kind of climb up, just feels like a bit of a peaceful release, kind of once you get back to that pocket of the city. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, and speaking of the backing band, and you mentioned like, I mean, they're your friends. Like, how you guys know each other? How? Because you were talking about how you all have really kind of learned to play together, like all those,
sure.
and I think that really comes through on this record too, like those connections.
Yeah, yeah. I've been joking a bunch recently, like when you're younger, band practice is like 80% hanging out and maybe 20% making music. You get
Right.
older, responsibilities, time, it kind of flips. And I think you kind of have to work hard to make sure that you're also really getting to know the people you're playing with, like as people, not just as
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really lucky because I've gotten to do a bunch of touring over the past couple of years where it's like, fly somewhere, put together a band with different people, and then hit it. But
Right.
here, those are kind of my core guys. And Dana was in a band that changed my life called Akron Family. I mean, I can
Mm-hmm.
say that, confidently, just can't. It is hard to kind of understate the influence that group had on me.
Yeah.
And now he's in my band and one of my closest friends, and even that fact alone is not lost on me, is pretty remarkable. And then
Mm-hmm.
Alex, I met early on when I came out here. I actually think a songwriter he was playing with. It was actually the first time live I had ever seen a group do bass, pedal steel, songwriter, drum machine. And I was like, and
Hmm.
something about it was such a simple concept, but the fact that I was like, oh, you can just do that. You can
Right.
just was like really important to me. And honestly, that kind of is what planted the seed for kind of my approach to some of the earlier albums that I did.
Man.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And just real quick, speaking of playing on the road, you just got back from your first overseas shows, right? Recently ish.
So last year was my first proper UK tour, also with Bobby Lee and Joe Harvey
Okay.
White, kind of under this Cosmic Country review thing we've been doing. And so I just went back there for a way quicker trip. So it was just one show in London, and we played this festival in Ireland. So it was my
Nice.
first time in Ireland.
Nice.
But yeah, we kind of did it last year, and it was such a success. And we're trying to figure out how to kind of bring it around, and it works really well. Joe Harvey White, incredible steel player, he'll do like 20 minutes of just like ambient pedal steel. Then Bobby will play, or me, and like his band becomes my band. And
That's
it's just,
awesome.
yeah, it's just kind of, it creates a really cool arc. And I feel like me and Bobby obviously have really similar tastes, but like our sounds are different enough to hopefully keep it
Right.
interesting for the audience too. So
Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah, you
yeah,
need to bring that stateside.
yeah, I would love to. Yeah, yeah.
And you're going out on the road, or you got some dates coming up. I think you just announced yesterday or the day before.
Yep. Yeah, going out with my buddy Michaela Davis, who I met for the first time last summer when I was DJing at Pickathon. She was performing and blew me away. And I even saw her sit in for a couple tunes with Rich Ruth, which was like holy shit.
Wow.
And yeah, Michaela, also is kind of my connection to Circles Around the Sun, but she's phenomenal, and yeah, couldn't be more hyped to head out this summer with her.
That's awesome. All
Yeah.
right. I will make sure to put all that information in the show notes because people should go out and see it. But now we're going to get into the whole reason we're here. Maybe not the whole reason, but most of the reason.
And as ever, to start, what's the first song, Jeffrey, that you remember?
Yeah, what came to mind immediately is Green Day When I Come Around off Dookie, and there was actually an article recently. I haven't dug into it yet, but some kind of another kind of oral history of that record. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason that one sticks out to me so much is because I think a lot of anyone learning to play an instrument as a kid, I think, has that classic moment where there's like family over the house and they're like, why don't you play a little bit for us? Why don't you show us what you're working on? And for me, it was like coming downstairs very timidly with my really awful guitar and amp. I remember this amp, it was called a Gorilla. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And plugging in kind of in the living room with like all these aunts and uncles around, everyone kind of being like, what's about to happen here? And I think I just turned on like the 3 CD changer, put on Dookie, and it was just me playing along to it. It was that.
Oh man.
So they obviously, that was a cool house show.
Yeah.
Maybe my first house show
Yeah.
in my own house too. And so I don't know how long that lasted or how many songs they let me get through before being like, okay, like we get it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
But I feel like I still, when I pick up the guitar, like that's a riff I play. We even like, that band Nap Eyes from Canada that I love. They do a really great cover of it, like a pretty recent cover of it.
I haven't heard
that. We did our like cover sessions for Aquarium Drunkard recently, and there's definitely a demo of us doing one like a countrified kind of version of When I Come Around. So maybe bonus release.
Yeah. Exclusive B-side
somewhere. Yeah.
That's me. Yeah, no, I have that same memory. I mean, mine was Every Rose Has Its Thorn by Poison.
Nice.
Playing in front of my family and everyone. Yeah. And I think it was probably the same thing where I like put the CD on and played along with it, and everyone's just kind of looking at you like, okay, great.
Yep. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I listened to Billy Joe Armstrong on the Mark Maron podcast recently, and have just kind of caught wind of a few things. And I'm like, I don't know. My level of kind of admiration and respect for him has kind of like grown over the years, and I think I kind of view all that stuff through a different lens. And like, I don't know, what a fucking record! Like,
totally agree. Yeah, no, I mean, I think of like a lot of the music. So one thing is the fact that this is like one of the first songs you remember makes me feel very old, because I was in high school when this. I think I was in high school. Was I out of high school? No, I must have been in high school when this came out. But like a lot of the stuff I listened to from that era, listening back, I mean, like my buddy Sam and we did a whole podcast for 2 years about the band Rancid. Super problematic dudes.
Yeah.
And so like, kind of coming to terms with that and talking about, like Billy Joel, like the Green Day guys don't seem so like I'm sure there is thing, but like I have a different kind of respect for them too. After I heard I know the Marin episode you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah. I mean, I think like that maybe I was thinking like, the first song I remember, maybe almost even more in regards to like remembering how to play, and then because sometimes in my mind, I can't remember if like Green Day was truly like my first favorite band, but I would say like maybe right before that was Everclear actually. So I was also a deep Everclear guy as well, Not too long ago. I guess he lived in Portland for a long time, and not that long ago there was an article that was like, you can actually buy the guy Art's house way up in the West Hills, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, he was that guy. I never really had a big thing for Everclear, but I remember. So like, I don't know. I think it was like right before my kid was born. This is a while. So there's this like documentary called The Other F Word, and it's all about all these punk guys who became dads. So it's got like Flea in it, Lars Fredriksson from Rancid, but it's got Art in it.
Oh, and interesting.
It made me like him so much more. I don't know hardly anything about him, but hearing him talking about being a dad and stuff, I was like, oh man, this guy kind of rules. And he was really sweet and vulnerable in it. And yeah, so Who knows?
Nice. I would like to watch that. I like hearing that. I don't have kids. We don't plan to have kids, but I do like hearing and reading about that experience and how it changes people and how people have continued to maintain art or not.
Yeah.
And it's fast. It's all fascinating to me.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's something I think about every day of my life. But
you're living it.
Yeah. But we won't go into that. But we will talk about what's a song that makes you cry?
A song that makes me cry. I think, a song that this is maybe a song that made me cry really recently. I was just having such a hard time for different reasons. And then I think it was also right around the same time we had to say goodbye to like our older cat recently. And I'm a high school teacher. I don't teach music. I teach special ed, but occasionally I'll get asked to come to like the songwriting class just to talk about my experience and all that. And I love doing that. And, I will say all of Jeff Tweedy's kind of, songs, but even more recently, like the books he's written about songs have been pretty impactful for me. And the song Wilco, What Light, just has, I think, a really incredible message and something about what I was processing and then trying to share that with young people. It just hit me. And I was just, all of a sudden, I was like looking at, a group of 10 students just like kind of watching me cry while listening to this tune. But yeah, it's a sweet song. It's simple, it's hopeful, and kind of just ties to this whole notion sometimes of, I think, it is annoying how a lot of the most cheesy advice in life is also like the most real kind of stuff sometimes. You're like, damn it, that's real. Or
I know.
I know. The same way that you're like, oh, if I actually do exercise, it makes me feel good. Which, what did you know?
I know.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, that's personal experience. Like 2 years ago, I mostly stopped drinking. Yeah. Mostly, I was going to do it for a month just to prove to myself I could, and I was like, God damn it, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
And then started exercising more. I was like, oh God. And now, like the days where I don't get to get out and like just do my walk.
Yeah.
I'm way more bummed out about it, but yeah, this song is it. I'm not a big Wilco fan. Like I like Wilco, but I don't know a ton of their stuff super well. This song though, man. Whew.
Yeah. I got to interview Jeff not too long ago, which was for the Creative Independent, which was really cool. That was right around when his first, not his memoir, but this first kind of book about songwriting came out. And I don't know. I can't really think of a more kind of like famous, not famous person, famous in what we're kind of talking about, but I don't know. And I like that concept a lot. I do too. I like how humble he is. I don't know. It's really hard to find something bad to say. And his advice around songwriting too is so concrete and just makes sense. And so, and I will say there's, that's a band where like people go so hard about what the best Wilco record is. Like that's like such a music Twitter thing.
Right.
But I gotta say, on record, Sky Blue Sky is the one for me. So yeah.
This is I don't know that I can't remember if Wilco's actually,
and I don't even know. Like I'm gonna also just out myself as like I don't know their catalog like that well. Like I know Wilco, I know I like these songs, but that record in particular is always
It's come up. This record has come up twice in like the past month now. You and then and actually it was also the song that made them cry. It was Matt Sage picked another song from this record.
Nice.
And whenever after he and I talked, it made me revisit this record because I hadn't listened to it in a while. And yeah, it's really, really good. I mean, from like start to finish, it is just it's a beautiful record.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, okay. On the flip side, what's a
Yeah.
song that'll put you in a better mood?
Yeah, I was thinking about this tune by Johnny Frierson called Miracles, which also like I think a lot of my picks and something that I think a lot about is just like simplicity. I'm drawn to like simplicity of
Mm-hmm.
language, phrasing, and uh, yeah, this tune is also pretty hopeful. But yeah, the song "Miracles" by Johnny Frierson. I forget how I first came across this tune, but it's just incredible, and also like something that I think people just kind of need to hear, sometimes.
Right.
And it's a really raw recording. It's a really heavy recording, and I don't know. I think the record. It's from that record. I think "Have You Been Good to Yourself," which is just a wonderful question to ask yourself. I think sometimes
Yeah.
too.
Right. Right.
And so yeah, that album is phenomenal, and special voice, special approach to the guitar, and a song that like if I really am stuck, like truly feel like I need something to just give me a little boost, that is a go to for me.
Yeah. No, that's a great song.
Yeah.
It's really like you said. It's like it's really raw and stuff, but it's also kind of it's uplifting at the same
Yes.
time, and it's a great combination. All right. Well, now we get to everybody's favorite question, and that is, Jeffrey, what is objectively the best song of all time?
I chose that. I mean, yeah, and then I mean, all of these are kind of impossible asks of
Absolutely.
people, which is probably kind of the point that you do
Yeah.
this. You cruel, cruel man.
You learn a lot
uh,
about seeing how where people's brains go or how they just think about the questions beyond what the actual answer is, I think.
but I think sometimes whether it's like music Twitter in the van on tour, like I do think this concept of like how many songs are you able to put in the kind of like a perfect camp,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and so I think I would put the song "Glad and Sorry" by Faces in there, and again, pretty like simple song, for like beautiful language, creates a mood really quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's warm, it kind of hugs you, beautiful playing and tones, and it's hard to, yeah, I don't know, it just kind of, I've never been out somewhere and or DJ'd with that song and heard it on without someone just like really just
Yeah.
being like yes. So you know Ooh La La, obviously classic, but this tune in particular always just really does it for me.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I didn't. When I was just kind of like prepping for this, I didn't realize there was apparently a lot of drama around making this record, and
Yeah,
um,
I don't even know if I'm so familiar with that.
it
Yeah.
has to do with Rod Stewart. So you know, I guess he was getting like too famous for his own good and
Aha.
kept not showing up.
Interesting.
So, but yeah, I love I think this like a really hard balance to hold is like this song does feel and sound perfect, but it's also so warm and inviting because a lot of times like perfection it can sound like overproduced,
Yeah, yeah.
like, but the like Glenn John's production on this is just immaculate.
Yeah, it's stunning, and it like I guess it kind of does for me it has the quality of like you feel like you're in the room kind of hanging,
Yes.
so and that's something that I'm always looking for, always listening for, always trying to do with my own work, so that's
Mhm.
probably another reason why I maybe chose to go down that route for my
Yeah,
pick here. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. Like a song that can make you feel like you are sort of part of it because you're there
Yeah,
is not easy to do.
it's just like a nice I don't know how many BPM it is. I wouldn't be able to name it exactly, but it's I also think that there's this perfect BPM where it's where you're laid back, but it's still a groove. And so you're not kind of fully just laid out, but you're, and like that's like normally that's like the tempo that I want to live in. That's
Right.
that's like kind of like how I walk. That's what when I'm like hearing song ideas, I feel like a lot of times they're kind of at that tempo.
That's a really good point. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this isn't a perfect song. What's a song you used to love, but recently you heard it or you think about it now and doesn't really do it for you?
Yeah, I think there were. This is a hard question for me. I mean, my quick answer was uh, Tame Impala. Feels like we only go backwards, which like I think as someone that was like in psych bands or in a psych band a long time ago, like that first Tame Impala EP for me, like the very first one, like really was this thing where I was like, how did they do that? As like, it really was mind blowing. And I completely, for the most part, lost the thread on that band or caring about that band as, it just became this whole nother thing I couldn't even track.
Right.
But that tune in general, I remember at first being like, dang, that's a pretty serious single, pretty serious, tune. And now I'm just, that music feels thin to me. I don't know how else to describe it. Kind of not, it's not soulful. And so I think and I think that just shows that I think I used to listen a little bit more for tone.
Right.
And less about song, and now maybe it's the other way. So I think that's kind of why I picked that. But there's other kind of more kind of like heavier psych stuff from that era that I listen back and I'm like, I don't really think I can hang with this in the same way. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I feel like this song, it like surface level, it's like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool, but then you really there's not a lot of there.
And yeah, I mean, I think people also just have a lot of, I think, really strong opinions about them or this band, or that it became too much of a pop thing. I don't even know like what Tame Impala is anymore. Someone just yesterday told me that like he sold his whole catalog, and I'm like, isn't that something that only like, I don't know, Bruce Springsteen does, or Bob Dylan, like, when you're like,
like 80 years old or 70 years.
So I don't know. But yeah, just certain maybe that era of kind of groups. I was trying to process just maybe bands that were all kind of coming up around then too, that certain ones really, really stick for me still, and other ones I'm like, I don't know, I kind of feel like I got a trick pulled on me a little bit.
Yeah. I think the most lasting impression I have of Tame Impala is like the artwork of their one record.
Sure.
The real thing. Robert Beatty artwork.
Yep.
So okay, well, where are we at? Okay. You'd think I'd have these questions memorized, but no. Oh yeah. Okay. So other way around, what's a song that some people, whoever these people are, people hate it, people don't like it, you don't give a shit, you love it?
I mean, I think I'm kind of, my dad, huge Doobie Brothers like guy, and it's actually kind of funny. Like, there's this other podcast I listen to a lot called Impossible Way of Life, and they were just joking around. They're like, actually, like, what a fucking badass band name for the time. Just be like, yo, we like weed, and we need you to know, like, but I think, I don't know if people hate on the Doobie Brothers or not. I certainly don't. But I chose Jesus is Just All Right. I think also because it reminds me of the scene in Freaks and Geeks where Millie, is trying to like protect Lindsay at the party, and she starts, doing that on the piano, and then Jason Segel joins in, and it kind of is this thing that like, that's kind of describes it, right? It's kind of this thing that most people would be like, oh, don't do that, or we don't want to hear that right now. And then you kind of realize, like, oh shit, this kind of rips. So
I forgot all about that. Yeah, that's a really good callback there.
Yeah, incredible scene of that show. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of feelings about the Doobie Brothers. I remember when I was like in middle school or something, a friend of mine's dad was like, he thought he wanted to be the cool dad so
Yep.
bad, and he was like this was like always playing at their house when we went over there. And I don't know if that made him, I think at the time it made him really uncool because we were a bunch of stupid punk kids and
Sure.
just wanted to listen to Green Day probably.
Yep.
But that's my main memory of the Doobie Brothers is I don't remember the guy's name.
There's some yeah, I mean, I think like they're a group too where I realized like I kind of put them in a little bit more of this lame camp, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, all right, I like all this country stuff, but I'm also simultaneously getting this just more like soft rock and yacht rock. And I feel like the Doobie Brothers kind of can hit all of it for me, you know, the double guitars and like, you know, and they also like, I mean, they have like this kind of more country leaning record called Stampede. That's, again, hysterical title, but like pretty ripping. So
okay,
yeah.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't heard the title is very on the nose, but we can
after we're done here, we can start our Doobie Brothers podcast.
There we go. Yeah, it'll be you teaching me the ways of the Doobie Brothers.
Yes.
Okay. Do you consider yourself a romantic?
Yeah, I would be lying if I didn't, and it's always been that way. I wear my heart on my sleeve. You're gonna know exactly how I'm feeling most of the time. So sure, go ahead, put me in the romantic camp. Yeah.
All right. So what is the most romantic song?
Another impossible question, but my best go of it was Bill Callahan tune, What Comes After Certainty.
Oh man.
I feel like I obviously could have perhaps chosen something more quintessentially romantic, but those lyrics and that song stop me in my track every time. You know, true love isn't magic, it's certainty. And I'm just like, God damn, Callahan, you've done it again, kind of feeling, you know. And so it's so sweet and loving, and in my mind, you know, when I'm listening to that song, it's like his wife is nearby or something, and it was just kind of this really like casual thing. Who knows if there's any truth to that? But I like that that song just feels so. What he's talking about matches the feeling, which is like when you're certain, when you're in it, like there's a lot of comfort, and that it's not this like big other crazy thing. It can just be easy. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I love this pick because I feel like it goes against a lot of like sort of conventional ideas of romance, but in a way that resonates way more with me. I mean,
and I think this is his record where I think he like talked, you know, he was maybe starting to do some more interviews again, and it was like more like this is his like domestic album.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a dad and I'm settling down, and you know, it's funny because like again, not a dad, not but there's when someone is, I mean, you know, you can write wonderful songs in many different states of mind, right? You can be euphoria, joy, pain, agony. It can lead, right? But I think what you're hearing with Bill is kind of someone who's just like at ease, and I think it's nice, and it's good to just recognize when you are in that moment for yourself, I think too. So and if you can make a song about it that's that good, like my God. So
I know. I mean, I don't believe in fate, I believe in destiny.
Yeah, like come on, man.
Yeah, that's art.
Yes.
I absolutely love that pick. Okay, well, what's the song that changed your perspective on an artist, either for better or for worse?
Yeah, I chose Jimmy Buffett making music for money. I hadn't, I had a pretty narrow scope of Jimmy Buffett,
Hmm.
unfortunately, kind of until his recent passing. Um, and then the other podcast I mentioned, Impossible Way of Life, they did like a little tribute to him. And
Mm,
I had heard some other folks talking about him. And then just like a lot of record nerds that I'm buddies with on Instagram sharing songs, and a lot of my record collection is dollar bin stuff, or
yeah,
banged up records, and you obviously can find some of his stuff goes for really wild prices, but
sure.
you can find some of his stuff for pretty cheap. And that record, A1A, I mean, the cover of it alone is like incredible. He's just chilling with that Modelo, and you just want to be there. Um, but I think someone else that I'm like, oh, he's kind of like just a country guy, and I didn't
Yeah,
necessarily always like pull that together, that he has just these incredible songs that are just good, kind of like folk country or country rockers that really are so far away from maybe the really kind of like stereotypical, hits. And I didn't know that. And so
yeah,
it just made me want to kind of like revisit. And I feel like I just watched a bunch of interview clips and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, this guy had some stuff figured out.
yeah.
So, yeah.
I think yeah. No, I this song's a bop.
And I mean, there's like, it's amazing to like, because you can kind of like keep Jimmy Buffett in this camp of like only joking about him and his resorts and casinos, and it is insane, right?
Right,
But then there's like this whole other world that I hadn't
right.
considered until really listening to this album. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's really interesting when you do kind of get to know that other side. It's like, man, like you said, I think he had a lot of things figured out. Like
Business
he,
acumen for sure.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Good lord.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what about lyrics? I mean, we were just talking about Bill Callahan, amazing lyricist. But what's your favorite? What are your favorite lyrics?
Yeah, I mean, people, friends of mine probably get tired of hearing me talk about this next artist or this album, but yeah, Ted Lucas, It's So Easy is my pick. And again, hitting on a through line, a theme here that you can obviously notice, but less is more. You don't have to have a ton of lyrics. You can say the same thing
Yeah,
over again. You can repeat the same thing, and I think there's a really big urge to want to have more, but I've just never been attracted to. I'm not really like a story song kind of guy. I like when there's tons of room for interpretation and room for the
mm,
sounds. And yeah, that first side of that Ted Lucas record, he's kind of the king of it to me, or really
yeah.
provide like the template for me. So yeah, and again, you feel like you're in the room.
Oh
It's
man,
peaceful. And I just uh, watching people hear those songs for the first time is cool, because I've never shown that to anyone who's not like, whoa.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah.
That's one of yeah. I love that record so much. I think you and I actually first got into contact because of that is it Doom Trip that did the
Perpetual
cover
Doom. Yeah.
Perpetual Doom.
Yeah,
I knew it had Doom in it, which that was such a cool project. But yeah, this I think he could have picked like almost any song off of this record for this category, and it would be like, yeah, okay.
sure.
um,
Yeah, that's my
yeah,
guy. And another, amazing story and amazing musician. And um, just glad that you realize that records can have many, many lives. So you thinking
yes,
about making something, you're like, oh, it's just gonna be for these people over the course of a couple years. Like you actually have no idea. You have
yeah,
zero idea. So yeah.
yeah. That's always to me one of of the many things I love about doing all this is it's like you make a thing and put it out there, and then it's out of your hands in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and you never know what's going to happen, and that's
Yeah.
exciting and a little terrifying sometimes, but
Yeah.
that's the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
What song have you or can you listen to the most?
What song have or can I listen to the most? Yeah, I was this kind of tune I would put kind of back into that kind of perfect camp, and yeah, America's Sister Golden Hair. I don't get. I feel like it kind of. I can jam that with people my age, my dad, young people. Like I feel like it kind of spans the gap there, um, and I don't know. I think it's like I'm so obsessed with a little kind of like drum fill in that really kicks that song into gear, and yeah, I just don't get tired of it. It's beautiful tune, great vocal takes.
Yeah.
It's just classy. So
Yeah, like those harmonies, they feel so effortless, like they just exist.
Yeah, and bands like that, songs like that, I think specifically for that reason, like I'm not a vocalist that can do that, or not yet at least, and so when I hear that stuff, I think it's impressive every time.
Yeah. What's the last song you completely fell in love with?
Last song I completely fell in love with, I love there's this album from Rick Roberts, I think 1970, I want to say two, called Windmills, and it's the first tune. It's called Deliver Me, and it's just I can't get enough with it. It's kind of just been like a DJ staple for me. He's got, I think, the credits are pretty crazy, because I think it's like Henley on drums and Bernie Leathen on guitars, and I think he's got Al. I think he's also got Al. Is it Al? Yeah, Al Perkins on steel guitar. So he also, and there might be other tunes that have. I don't know if Crosby sings harmony on the tune, but he was deep in the mix with all these,
Apparently so.
heads. But the song is incredible, and it is so far. I would say over the past year, like without fail, when I put that song on when I'm DJing people, it's like, just right up to the DJ booth. Like, what is this? Yeah. So yeah,
that's always a good sign. Yeah. No, this it's another one where it feels like the melodies and like it just feels there's like this effortlessness to it that is so, it's just so powerful. Honestly, I mean it lands.
Yeah.
And his voice is great. His voice kind of cuts through all of it too. It's like this beacon in the middle of it, which is great.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of funky. It's kind of soft rock. It's kind of, I don't know. There's a lot coming together in a way that, like, in a different context maybe wouldn't work, but this guy's making it happen. So yeah,
exactly. Okay, well, what cover song's better than the original?
Yeah, my go-to for that has always been Donny Hathaway doing "You've Got a Friend." It's again stop you in your tracks type of recording, and you hear the audience singing along. Amazing. And so deep, so moving, and yeah, I mean that's a song that, like, God, Lord knows how many versions there are of that, and it's just a phenomenal take, and I think kind of makes the lyrics or the message even stronger via his delivery.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I think this is,
and it's live, obviously. So
yeah. One of the things, whenever I did this, did an episode with Miriam Gendron, and we talked about, she brought up this idea of like a song, like the song versus the performance.
Sure.
And because we talked a lot about the song Shenandoah, which is the version that most of people I know who grew up with, it's like this cheesy thing, but then when you hear like a choral version or her version of it. Like it's this most beautiful melody in the world. But I feel like this is one of those songs that it didn't really, because like you said, there's a million versions out there, and it's like, oh, it's fine. And then you hear this, and it's just this sort of transcendent. It adds this whole other layer to like of meaning to it.
It kind of, I mean, this like eliminates all cheesiness and just makes it cool and sultry, and so you're like, wow, to do that with a song that like for a lot of people is like, please, again, like,
all right, in the home stretch, 2 questions left. What is the song that means the most to you?
This another tough one. I've been a huge fan of Natural Child for a long time now, and first, when my wife and I, before we were married, living in Brooklyn, we inherited my grandpa's old, I think it was a 98 Buick Century. It was a boat of a car. And there were some, but I was so excited to have a car in the city and so excited to have a car with a tape deck. That car, he wound up having some funny tapes in the back, one of which was this Cruisin' Classics, it was called, which was actually like put out by Shell, like the gas station. So it's like crazy to think of like gas stations operating as record labels, you know? We had, I think my wife came back from a work trip and got this Natural Child tape for me. And that tune, I mean, that's just a fun tape. I feel like that band is meant to be listened to kind of on tape in imperfect conditions.
Right.
And the song "Let the Good Times Roll" it's funny. It's so much fun, and we just every trip kind of was soundtracked by that song. And then it was when we got married. That was like big moment. That was the first song that played when afterwards.
Oh, nice.
That song has always meant a lot to me, and that band. I feel like the people that know them just kind of love it.
Right. No, it definitely has. Like in road trip vibes.
Yes, absolutely.
And so hey, Shell Gas, I guess they were on top of it.
They were gassed up.
That is wild though. I mean, there's like things like that existed at one point, and I don't know.
I was like, could you imagine? I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Some big, some big new indie band being like, we're gonna release this with Exxon or something. Exxon's new tape label.
They're really trying to give back.
Yes.
Finding new things to do with oil. All right, Jeffrey, we're on the last question. So as of this moment in time, what is your favorite song?
Once I started listening to, I mean, it was mostly, I would say, through those like the compilations, those country funk comps. I think that's where I first started hearing Jim Ford for the first time. But Jim Ford has become a very kind of big influence for me and what I do. And the song "Love on My Brain" for the past, I don't even know how many years now. It's just, it's living rent free up here, and again has that really nice laid back but simultaneously not too laid back kind of groove. It's very sweet, and he just adds this level of swamp to everything. This density, this thickness that I just think is so cool. So I can't get away from it.
Swamp, that's a really good. I mean, even because I was thinking about like the orchestral arrangements on here and stuff, and like because they're really great. But it just it's like being in this weird kind of swamp.
Yeah. But yeah, you're. I mean, like, and yeah, I mean, his voice is. He shouldn't be able to sing like that,
Right.
but but he does, and yeah, and that's something I've been talking a lot about is like certain recordings from around then. It's like the use of string arrangements just for like these. I'm just starting to actually understand how powerful that can be, even just the tiniest little two hits of strings or trumpet, and how you can use that in a really kind of like pointed, meaningful way to get the mood across more. And Jim Ford, I think, does that quite a bit. So yeah,
I think that's a really good point, because a lot of times when I think of stuff that like the orchestral arrangements, it feels a lot like, I don't know, like this bigger background thing or something.
Yeah.
The way stuff like this uses it, where it's there and then it's gone, but when it's there, it like snaps you into the moment even more so, or something. It's
he's that record, Harlan County, is another one, much like the Ted Lucas record, where I can't sing its praises enough. I tell everyone about it. I add it to all every mix, and I don't know, it's can't go wrong. I kind of feel like it's a nice, if you are someone who's more like staunchly like, oh, I don't know if country is my thing or whatever else, it's like actually a really nice kind of starting point too. So,
give it a try. You might be surprised.
Yeah.
Well, this was a blast. This playlist is awesome. So I hope people check it out. And once again, Roseway is out on June 14th. I don't know if this will air before or after that, but either way, people should check it out. And anything else people should be aware of that you want to mention?
No, I just appreciate everyone listening, taking interest. I appreciate you so much for what you're doing for the community, and for having me on. And so just thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Once again, thank you to Jeffrey Silverstein for taking some time out of his workday to talk about awesome tunes. A reminder that Roseway is out now on Airhawk Records. There's a link in the show notes. I highly recommend checking it out. And the vinyl version also has on the B side, so it has Roseway on the A side. B side has his, I don't remember his debut, but I think it's called Torii Gates. It's Torii. I don't actually know how to pronounce that, but I'm going to go with Torii Gates on the B side, which is the first time that's ever on vinyl. So that's super cool. And you could, of course, listen to all his picks at the link in the show notes. And that's it. If you've enjoyed this episode, enjoyed previous episodes, it'd be awesome if you could leave a review and or a rating on whatever service you listen to this on, or if you listen to it on Foxy Digitalis. I don't know. Thanks. If you really, really like it, you like Foxy Digitalis, you like the stuff I do, patreon.com/Foxy Digitalis for as little as $3 a month. Supports all this, keeps it going, helps make it happen, and you have my undying gratitude. All right, that's it. Till next week, keep on listening to whatever the hell you want.